Senator Biden, I'm 27 years old. Half of all greenhouse gas emissions ever generated by the entire history of human civilization have been released in my lifetime. This despite the now well-documented fact that 40 years ago, scientists at Exxon and Shell knew and reported to their bosses that burning fossil fuels was warming the planet and would destabilize the climate. Fossil fuel corporations, their executives, their trade and industry organizations, and their think tank front groups have waged a decades-long campaign of lying to the public about the science, and it has brought us to a crisis that threatens the entire human race. Now, I know that you signed the No Fossil Fuel Money pledge, but I have to ask, how can we trust you to hold these corporations and executives accountable for their crimes against humanity when we know that tomorrow you are holding a high-dollar fundraiser hosted by Andrew Goldman, a fossil fuel executive?
He's not a fossil fuel executive, I'm told. He is not a fossil fuel executive. And the fact of the matter is that what we talk about is, what are we going to do about those corporations? What have we done? And everywhere along the way, for example, I've argued and pushed for us suing those executives who are engaged in pollution, those companies who are engaged in pollution. I've never walked away from that. I've also been one of those people who, when I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, got involved in plans to be able to join people together in order to take on these corporate interests. When back in 1986, they entered one of the first climate plans that existed. PolitiFact said it was a game changer. I've been engaged in this from the beginning.
Let me just inform our audience about some of the details that Aaron was talking about, because I think it's important. I think a lot of people don't know about the studies that you cited. 2017, there was a Harvard study that examined both public and private communications from ExxonMobil. The study showed that for 40 years, while the company publicly were raising doubts about climate change and the dangers of it, internally, ExxonMobil scientists and executives were acknowledging the threat to the planet. There was 2018, there was a Dutch news organization which uncovered internal communications from Royal Dutch Shell showing they understood the impacts of climate change and the company's contribution to it all the way back to the 80s. Let me just point out that in response to Harvard, Exxon said, our statements have been consistent with our understanding of climate science. Shell said, quote, its position on climate change has been a matter of public record for decades. We strongly support the Paris Agreement on climate change. But Isaac's question is, will you hold fossil fuel corporations and executives who've lied to the public accountable?
Yes, and by the way, just like we did the tobacco industry that lied to the public, just like we did the opioid industry.
So how do you do that?
Well, the way you do that is you try to change the law. You go after them, you try to change the law.